Hello, my name's Alison Cameron, and I was director of the East Kirk excavation project in 2005 and 2006. And today with me, I've got Jim. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Jim Merrilees, a retired school teacher and former Synod Clerk of the United Reformed Church. I was also a member of Grampian Region Education Committee for some 12 years. I'm a member of the Mitherkirk Project Trust Board, Open Space Trust Board, and have been since its inception. I've been with the Mitherkirk Project since we first got it off the ground.
And how long have you been at the worshipping at the church, Jim?
Well, worshipping since 1995 when we left our premises in Belmont Street, and then we became an ecumenical partnership in 2002.
Right, excellent. Um, I'm just going to show this next slide, which is this is Parson James Gordon's map of 1661, Jim, which I know you're
Yeah,
familiar with, and I just thought as a nice backdrop to to talking about the church and the project. And I know you weren't around in 1661, but um, this is obviously an image of the old church, which of course the West Church has been redeveloped in the 18th century, and of course the East Church in the 19th century. And so, I mean, how do you feel about this development, about the reuse of the east end of the church?
well, when we were running up to the amalgamation of the two churches, um, we we were in discussion with the Church of Scotland, and they had a concern that they did not want to see two sanctuaries as there were then within the building, and they wanted us to do something about that. So we decided that the East Kirk part was the best for any development, and we came up with the Mitherkirk project. It wasn't easy because it was quite a leap of faith to know that you were entering into a project that at that stage was going to cost something like £2 million. And we had to do it with the ministry we had and the personnel we had. But although everyone was a little concerned about doing it, we realized there was absolutely no alternative. So people made that leap of faith and worked very hard to get things off the ground.
Absolutely. I mean, you said it was the best area. What made it the better than, say, the West Kirk?
Well, the West Kirk was part of a listed building, and we would not have been able to do anything to the interior at that time. The East Kirk was a more modern building, wasn't listed as such, and we were able to make plans for it.
Yeah. So, Jim, when you worshipped in the church, did you worship in the East or the West?
We came in as Congregationalists, and we came partly because there were two sanctuaries, and partly because we wanted to be in the city centre and have a mission to the city centre. Um, so we worshipped always in the East Kirk.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is a really nice image, Jim, that
Yes,
I obviously it's really interesting that although the West looks bigger, it seats 1100 and the East Kirk seats 1700. And presumably this is to do with the gallery and, the way that it's all set out, is it?
yes, very much so, yes.
And so the West has got seating around facing the altar on the south wall,
Yes,
and the East, the altar is up above St. Mary's Chapel. Um, with seating all on two levels there.
that's right.
Yes, yes, yes. Um, so when you started thinking about the redevelopment, when was that then? 2000 and
So that would have been around 2000, 2001.
right. And were there people who didn't want to do it?
There were people, yes, there were one or two. They were in the minority, but they weren't a vocal minority. The people who were for the project were a little more outcoming.
Yeah. You asked about us to put these images in because it's a bit of the church that you particularly like, this window.
The reason for asking for those was that the image that's on the right, these are obviously stained glass small windows. And when I first saw the one on the right, it was actually in pieces and in a polythene bag, which one of the other ministers had. And it was incomplete. And I think it was the excitement I felt when I really understood what restoring glass was about, because we had a restorer contracted who made a wonderful job, possibly even better than the original. But I just felt that this project was taking off, and this was something to be excited about, and something that was good to be part of, that we could do these things.
Yes. So this window is sort of symbolic of the redevelopment almost, that things have got a little bit run down and, but actually this can bring the building back into life and breathe life into it. Yeah, yeah.
That's right. Part of the reason why we came to the Kirk was because it was a notable public building in a key area of the city, right in the heart of the city. And yet people passed it daily and didn't even realize it was a functioning building.
Yes, I mean, I used to work in town and ate my sandwiches often in the graveyard.
Yeah.
And it was quite busy on a sunny day. It's absolutely lovely. People sitting around, chatting and eating sandwiches. But I imagine that very, very few of them would realise that the church was open in the summers and, on Sundays, obviously. But I mean, the West Kirk used to be open for a little service every day at 1 o'clock as well. It was.
That's right. A prayer meeting, yes.
Yeah. But people didn't realise that. They used the graveyard because it was sunny and had already set out tables and chairs in some ways with the tabletop gravestones you could sit on.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. Because when we were doing the dig, we talked to a lot of people, obviously, and explained to them what we were doing, and a lot of people didn't know that you could go inside and how fantastic it is. I mean, just what an amazing building it is.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. In the early 70s, there was an excavation in, what's now the oil chapel. And of course, you weren't worshipping at the church then. I don't know if you remember this taking place at all.
I remember it taking place. I wasn't there at all, but I was aware that the oil chapel the chapel that was there was being refurbished to recognise the 25 years of the oil industry in the North Sea.
Yeah. And this was done a little bit before we did our dig, and obviously it gave us an idea of what was below the floors, because, I mean, once we came to do the dig, I'm not sure if you had imagined that it might look like this,
No, everything was entirely new territory for us. But the time of the dig was one of the most exciting times we had. We saw the full scope of things, and we rubbed shoulders with the archaeologists and volunteers, and some of us got to know them very well, and it was an exciting time.
Yes, I mean, I think we worked really well together, didn't we? You members from the church and the people who made the tea and guided people around the church, and us, obviously. I mean, technically there was a wall between us, but actually you used to come and visit, people from the church would come and up onto the gallery and, watch us.
That's right. And then we also established a viewing window in the drum aisle, and that was a popular vantage point for a lot of people.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I've got another picture of the big. This is a slightly different view down on it from the stairs you go up,
Yes,
above St
yes,
Mary's, but looking down on it. But yeah, I mean, everybody on the dig really enjoyed working in the church. Just it was a very unusual situation to be working inside. Um, Obviously, to be finding so much. I mean, just the number of burials. None of us could have anticipated, that we would have nearly 950 burials altogether.
oh,
Um,
indeed,
yeah.
indeed.
And even I think in 2005 when we did the trenches, small trenches under the floor, we weren't expecting when we opened it out to have such well-preserved archaeology.
Oh, indeed, and the conditions were good for it as well. The kind of soil we had and so on.
So the preservation was extremely good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but some of us got to know some of the people, some of the volunteers quite well. My sister Alice still has contact with a lady called Abir, who has a small, well, not such a small child now, but Alice was able to keep me up to date with Abir and the progress of her kiddie.
Yes, who's nearly 14 now.
Yes.
Because of course she was born the year that we did the dig, because she started the dig and obviously then had a baby partway through the year. So yes, no, absolutely. And actually the stained glass that you showed is one of Abir's favourites because it's got the pyramids.
Oh, yes, yes.
And one of the gods, Horus, it is on the image. Yeah, yeah. But yes, and I think Alice, she came to help us on the dig. Some of you, the people from the
Yes.
church, Alice, I actually remember Alice taking this position where this man is in the blue here. She helped us by emptying our buckets into the chute here that took the
Oh,
soil
yeah.
away.
Yes.
I think she was a little worried about doing the digging. We tried to encourage people to come and help us with the dig as well. But yeah, no, it was a really nice time for everybody there.
Oh, indeed.
And
Indeed.
obviously the things that we found, in some ways it's slightly double-edged sword, Jim, that if you find a lot, it costs a lot.
Yes. Yes.
But then if you find a lot, it obviously makes your church a lot more information about your church and about the people of Aberdeen.
Oh, indeed. There's a great deal we learned about the uses of the building at different times and landmarks for us. I think we little thought that we would uncover in St Mary's Chapel the oldest existing wall in Aberdeen.
Yeah. So this is it on the left, Jim. Here, I'm just showing this so that people who haven't
Yes.
seen it before. Obviously, we haven't been able to exactly date it, but this could be as early as the 11th century.
Indeed.
And the burials around about it, you can see in the picture, we had these burials of 25 small children sort of
Yes.
radiating out from it. I mean, a unique and fascinating discovery. And wonderful to see a bit of the earliest wall, of course, that's standing, we think, in Aberdeen at the moment.
Yes. Yes.
And of course, that's great that you're going to be able to leave it. I mean, I think that's important, isn't it? That what we've uncovered will survive as photographs, but actually to be able to leave bits in situ in your new development are brilliant.
Yes. Yes. And make features of them as well.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I mean, some of the things we had to take out, we obviously had to remove all the skeletons because they couldn't be kept for your development.
Indeed. Indeed.
And then this is a really nice bit, I think, of the dig where you see the 12th century wall at the top, and then the 15th century wall of St Mary's at the bottom, with all the burials of people who wanted to be buried really close to the east end of
Yes.
the church.
Yes. Indeed.
And we had quite late burials. Everybody seemed to be wanted to be buried in the East End. All of these people were. So it's been an area where people revered, where people, worshipped for such a long time that I think that's really nice for your development.
It's nice for the development, and we also learned a lot about the church and its the different stages, the phases it went through in terms of building. It changed quite a lot over time.
Yes, I mean the congregation would have been fairly wealthy, and so they were able to do these big extensions.
Yes,
Um, and of course, for us, it was fantastic because they didn't destroy everything. The archaeologists like it when things survive, and obviously
yes,
the survival here is incredibly good. Um,
good.
the bit that I like when we broke through into that little vault and we found the staircase was a really exciting bit for the archaeologists.
Yes, yes,
And to actually find bits of your church that you, well, I don't think we really realised quite what was there, this stone steps and the vaulting.
quite. We
Yeah.
we really learned a lot, and a lot that we've shared with visitors to the church over this time, and it does make a big difference.
Yes, absolutely. And hopefully we'll continue to share with visitors.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I made an estimate, Jim, of about 14,000 people visited in 2006.
that's right.
I know that you were in charge of guiding people around on Doors Open Day that year when we had about 2,000 people visited in that day. Do you remember that day?
I remember that day well. We we were so packed in. Um, it was difficult to get through at times, um, but we had everything on display for people. Um, in the image that's there, we have a party of school children, and I had retired from teaching maybe a year before, and it brought back to me all the best things about education, about these youngsters coming in excited to see what was here, and very excited by the dig itself. So much so that they came back dragging parents with them to see what they had seen. And the teachers, as ever, the primary school teachers were preparing the kids for coming to the church. And I remember fielding all kinds of questions and being able to get answers to questions that weren't always easy.
Yes, I mean, I think you're right that the school children who visited, I mean, I think we booked in about 60 or 70 classes
That's right.
over the year, just of primary children. And I mean, they just really enjoyed it. I've got another picture of them up. This was obviously the gallery that we created to walk around the dig. And so they got quite close to the dig and to the diggers. And as you say, they were, they really enjoyed it. And I think, they got a lot out of that visit.
Yes.
I think being in a big building like St. Nicholas, which is so fantastic, must have been amazing for them. I mean, not just the dig, but the whole building itself was.
That's right. And it was a building that, like a lot of the population, was unknown to them. They were very quick to drag parents in on open days and so on, and share what they themselves had learned.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that some of the individuals that we excavated are really quite sort of iconic and sort of exciting, that they seem to bring, obviously people in the past back to life. I mean, this fantastic example um, of this burial with this heart-shaped brooch over the heart of the individual. Um,
Yes.
I mean, really, for the archaeologists, it was incredibly exciting, and it's made it onto front covers of magazines and. Um,
Oh, indeed. And some of the post excavation study was quite fascinating because you felt that you began to know something about the features of the lives of some of these people. And of course, some of the terrible diseases and incapacities that they've gone through.
Yes. I mean, did you have any reservations about excavating the burials at all?
I didn't, not about excavating them, but I did realize that this was a sensitive area and we had to get it right. We had to be seen to be according the right kind of respect for the dead and also a concern for what might happen to them in the future. That having uncovered some of these people, we would need to lay them to rest properly again.
Absolutely. And obviously that's going to happen. This vault's going to be excavated fairly soon, well, after lockdown, and the bones are going to start to go back in, be buried near where they wanted to be buried in the first place.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Absolutely. I mean, I put this image in, Jim, because it came from, it was a reused stone, but this face, I always wondered if, where this would have been in the church. It would have been high up somewhere, near the ceiling,
Yes.
probably. And I always wonder, I mean, I assume it's not the face of somebody in St. Nicholas, but it's really nice to be able to see faces from the past as well.
That's right. That's right. And that's what's so fascinating in ways about St. Mary's Chapel as well, because there are one or two of these kind of images, and some of them quite strange. But we've got to know the buildings so well because of the archaeological dig as much as anything else.
Yes, yes. Yeah. And also one of the things that I really like is to think about the links of St. Nicholas with other churches. So people who were buried at St. Nicholas had been on a pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela in the
Yes.
northwest of Spain. Have you been there, Jim?
No. No.
Oh, you should go, definitely. Wonderful place. I mean, I flew, I didn't pilgrim in, but these people had gone there, bought a scallop shell, attached it to a bag or a hat, and then been buried with these things. And
Yes.
so that must have been quite a journey in the medieval times to go there.
Oh, absolutely. When you think of it, when you think of the dangers along the roads and the distance people walked.
Absolutely. And I
Incredible.
think also you'd have had to have had a fair amount of money behind you to allow
Oh,
you
yes.
to do this as well. So, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. And then this other woman who's a sort of middle-aged woman who's got this vitamin D deficiency, so she's been quite ill, and
Yes.
she has been buried with this lead token underneath her, so in a pocket presumably or in clothing. Um, and I tried to find out where this badge was from to see where she had been, but I couldn't find anywhere. And we were wondering if it was actually the badge of St. Nicholas, so that she had been on a pilgrimage here to
Ah,
Aberdeen.
yeah.
And it's a Pietà, so the Mary with the body of Jesus over her knee, and of course the link to St Mary's.
Of course. Yes. Yes.
But would that not be so exciting if we're able to find out that that was the badge of this church, and that she had
Indeed.
come here and then died?
Yeah. Indeed. Again, another link with the past and learning more, which is what happened with the archaeology
Yes.
all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And of course, this is the window that you spoke about, which we used to enjoy looking through. There was always lots of faces there looking at us.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, and we saw you obviously showing people around and talking to people, and then people would come up to the gallery and we would talk to them. So um, that was very popular. I think there were some people who weren't as able to get around the church and who could manage to this window, which I think
Right.
was a good thing.
It was a real boon.
Yeah, but that's actually set in quite a little room, and so it was always quite crowded. And
Yes.
but I think people enjoyed it though.
Yes. And full of activity and the bright lights, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Well, that's right. We had these spotlights on us, didn't we? So you could
Yes.
clearly see what we were up to and make sure we were working hard enough. And then I mean, we obviously had a lot of publicity, and so it'd be nice if when the development starts and we get lots of good publicity, and there's always the fundraising element as well, isn't there? That we need
Oh,
to raise funds. So
yes.
yeah. I mean, I've just put these on at the end, Jim. I don't know if you want to say anything. I've just put these on so people can get in touch with you and the church. I don't know if you want to say anything at the end.
Yes. The future of the building, we're looking to make this a gathering place and a focus for community. And we have a number of ideas, and hopefully people can learn more about Aberdeen. There is a possibility that a part of the city archives, and they're among the most extensive in Europe, They may well go on display in part, and certainly we would hope an online facility to look at them better. The links that you have there are also to what is a 360-degree panorama of St. Mary's Chapel, and that is a fine memory of what the chapel looks like in the dig, and it will be a matter of interest to so many people in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Jim.
Thank you, Alison.